Well, hello, Stella, and welcome to the State Project.
Hello, and thank you.
How are you today?
Doing all right. How about yourself?
Doing awesome. I'm super excited to talk to you because I haven't been able to chat with a mama that has come from Colorado and moved to Arizona yet. So I'm excited to chat
Colorado.
with you. So tell me just a little bit about where in Colorado you're from and why did you choose AZ?
I am originally from Denver, Front Range. I've lived in Denver. I've lived in Boulder. I've lived north of Denver. So we all call it the Front Range. So Denver and north. Um, why did I choose Arizona? That's actually a pretty long story. Um, couple of reasons, couple of big reasons, couple of reasons that I don't share with a lot of people, and some reasons that are pretty personal to me. So first of all, I'm a Colorado native, so cold weather is not new to me. I used to love it. I used to go out and sell in heels and strappy shoes and skirts and in the snow and no big deal. But over the last 10 years or so, our winters turned into like 8-month long events. And I remember dropping my kids off at school, like the last day of school before summer, in winter coats. And I would make jokes about, like, I'm bringing them in until summer starts because we're not starting summer vacation tomorrow in winter clothing. So they're coming back tomorrow. It was October through May event, cold event, and I just got tired of it. The biggest reason, the reason that I don't share with a lot of people, is that my daughter, who is now almost 16, was violently bullied
Oh.
for many years. She was pushed downstairs, she was pushed into lockers, she was shoved off of the tops of play equipment. I loved where we lived, I loved the area, I loved the people, but our school district in particular never did anything.
Oh.
And they were very reactive instead of proactive. And so I started looking outside of our district, and where can we open enroll, and we have to save her. We have to do something. We were in a very small town, 100-year-old town, maybe a few thousand people, very, very little. One high school, one middle school, 3 elementary schools, and two charter schools, I think. The high school had like a 3% suicide rate. And when my daughter was 9 years old, I remember saying to my mom, who lived in, well, no, she was in Colorado at the time. Maybe it was my sister who lived in Virginia at the time. My daughter's never going to see the age of 16, which she will be in a couple of months now. Like, I just know that, like, I feel that deep in my soul. This kid will not, she won't make it. She won't make it through her teen years. And maybe some of this is built in her, but she's not in an environment that's going to help her succeed. She's in an environment where kids just won't leave her alone. And we switched schools, and it followed her, and we switched again, and it followed her. And so clearly it wasn't just the environment. Some of this is built into her, but I needed her to have a fresh start and a way to survive. So I started thinking, okay, what's important? I hate winter. So sun is important. Sun is healthy for, mental illness. Sun is just a good thing. It's good for me. I could never live in a place that's rainy and cold all the time, like Seattle.
Mm-hmm.
So I started looking at Arizona, and I actually spent 3 years researching schools in Arizona. And oddly enough, we are in Gilbert, so we're in the Higley School District. Out of all of the districts I researched, Higley never came up. And when I was looking at homes, my realtor at the time even said, don't go to Higley. Like, whatever you do, open enroll into Gilbert or Chandler or somewhere else, don't go to Higley. My search actually sent me up to Surprise and Peoria. And I don't remember the names of the districts up there because I don't think it's Peoria. Or maybe it is Peoria. But anyway, there were 3. One of them, and I want to say Surprise might be it, actually has an anti-bullying curriculum. Like, it's part of their everyday, this is what we teach our kids. So we do all the core knowledge, and we teach kindness and how to be a good human. And it was really cool. I was like, that's it, we're moving to Surprise, Arizona. What a great name. Well, I got to Surprise, and I didn't like it. I just didn't like it. It was very much like where I was, small town, everything, we could get a great house and a big lot for next to nothing, but I just thought we need to be somewhere that's a little bit bigger, that has more opportunity for her. We had lived in a neighborhood that had 14 houses, so I was like, we need big. We need thousands of houses for her to choose from. So if the kid next door doesn't like her, she's got plenty of opportunity. So then I was kind of heartbroken, and I went back to Colorado, and I was like, okay, well, I did all this research and I hated the area. So we stayed for another year, and then came back, and our realtor brought us down to Gilbert Chandler, and he really pushed us towards Chandler, and I fell in love where we are now, and decided not to open enroll her, despite his advice, because I thought we need to go to the school where the neighbors go, So if it's Higley, if it's this bad district, then so be it. And by the way, I love our district. She doesn't go to that school anymore. She's actually an online kid now, but some of this is, like I said, built into her, and I think that's just where she does better. But fabulous school district. We're in a great neighborhood where, everything is green year round. The sun shines year round. It's been a pretty awesome move, but it took a long time to get here. And I don't share that with a whole lot of people because I don't want her to carry that weight. Like, right. I felt like as a mom, I had to save you. So we moved states to give you a chance to live.
What an incredible,
it's been an adventure.
Yeah, what an incredible story. And interesting to know that the place that you researched and that you felt would be the best spot didn't end up being that. And once you got here and you were able to kind of get a lay of the land and, figure some things out, you made some changes. So yeah. I love that you had an open mind about that, because that happens, doesn't it? I mean, I moved here from New Hampshire, which is a good 3,000 miles away-ish. Yeah. And you don't know. I mean, you can come and visit and you can do all the research that you possibly can, but there's something about living in an area and really experiencing an area, that really solidifies that for you.
Yeah, so we got so lucky with the people that we worked with, because they taught us what the area was like. I mean, my realtor over the phone, and even my veterinarian, because I have 2 St. Bernards, so they're cold weather snow dogs. So even my veterinarian, who's my current vet now, stayed on the phone with me while I was in Colorado for an hour, telling me everything I needed to know about St. Bernards in 113-degree weather. So everybody, who we worked with before I even left Colorado, helped with that process. And it was really my realtor who kind of taught me the divide between the East Valley, where I am now, and the west side of town, whatever Surprise is called. And how, what do you do for a living, and what kind of lifestyle do you live? I think you'd be better fit in the East Valley. And he was right, which was really interesting. I never would have figured that out on Google Earth or looking at, real estate listings. So
right. Absolutely.
Those relationships were really beneficial.
Super big deal. And thanks for bringing that up. That's important. So you started your research, you had mentioned, about 3 years or so before you decided to move. I think that's what you said, about 3 years. Yeah. How long did it actually take to make the move? So like once you were like, okay, that's it, we're going.
We decided over spring break, which was probably in March. And then I learned that schools here start in July. So I had that moment where, like, it's March and then they go back in July. So, what do? We put the house for sale? What do we rent? How do we rent with 3 kids and 2 St. Bernards and 2 cats? And, we pulled the trigger pretty quick. I was back down here in May to look at the house that we're currently in. That was odd story there too. It was a short sale. It was just a house that was not well cared for. But it was under contract, and the contract had fallen through, and then it was under contract again, and that had fallen through. And but I loved the floor plan and the model. So there were others that were listed. I'm like, I'm going to go down there. I'm going to go look at those, and I'm going to sign it. Make a deal. We're doing this. That house, which is the house that we're in, actually the 3rd or 4th contract fell through, and I ended up getting it. And I ended up doing a walkthrough on a Skype call with the listing agent, because my agent was on vacation in some other country and wasn't accessible. So it was really cool how that worked out. And I think we closed in June. So the decision was made in March. We closed in June. We got here July 6th, and kids started school like 3 weeks later.
Wow. So
it
really
all just kind of fell into place.
like just a couple of months. I mean, not saying that the research and everything was just a couple of months, but the physical moving portion of it. Just
once we said let's go, we went. Yeah, and then we had a couple of houses in the area that we were looking at, but once this one came back on the market, and I was like, that's it. This is destiny. This is meant to be. And so we took it and ran. And our house in Colorado sat on the market for a few months, but once we got the go, we were let's make this happen because we got to get the kids at school.
Right? Let's go to the sunshine. Let's do this.
Yeah.
Any other special arrangements? I know you had the St. Bernards, so did you drive them here, or what sort of special arrangements did you make to move?
I drove them here. 2 St. Bernards, 2 sedated cats in a dog crate, and 2 of my 3 kids in a minivan. And we stayed in a hotel that allowed us to take the Saints in, and yep, that's what we did. We made a couple of trips down here with U-Hauls on our own, just to kind of move in stuff a little bit at a time.
So you didn't take everything all at once?
No, did a couple of trips, and then some business trips from Phoenix to wherever we needed to go. And then, back and forth a few times.
Well, at least it's not New Hampshire. So
That's true, yeah.
That was a little easier.
That's true. I've lived out on the East Coast. I used to live in Virginia.
Oh, okay.
And, it's funny. I was telling somebody recently who was traveling, I think to Oklahoma, and she was staying somewhere between here and Oklahoma. And I was like, Oklahoma's like down the street, and I used to live in Virginia. I would travel from Colorado or when I lived in Colorado, but I had family in Virginia, I would travel 30 hours straight, all by myself, lots of coffee. You knew where every Waffle House was. I don't think I could do that today.
Yeah.
But I was laughing. I was like, are you kidding me? Like, Oklahoma's just right there. Just drive straight through. Why, you could do that. I've done it to Virginia several times. No
just,
more.
Coffee. Coffee cures everything.
Yeah. And age. That was 25 years ago. So there's that too. I don't think I can do that today.
Right. So you had the kids. You looked up schools. How did that go? What did you use? Anything in particular there that you might suggest to other moms that are looking at the same thing?
When I was researching what sent me to Surprise, I just started looking up school districts. And for me, I wasn't as worried about their curriculum as I was worried about their values, their core values. And so I just went on websites, and I have blogs about it on my website. From many years ago. I would literally input the word bully or bullying into the school district's search bar. And my own school district in Colorado, 0 results. I even have screenshots of this on my blog. 0 results. And then the Chandler School District, like 13,000 results. It's pretty amazing that just looking up that one word, who takes it seriously, and who sees this as a problem, and which schools are like, we'll just deal with this as it comes, which is where we were. Mm-hmm. So I wasn't really interested. I just didn't care about, sad as it is, the academic piece. I had heard that Chandler, for instance, is a very academically driven school district. And I didn't want to put my oldest there because I didn't think that's where she would thrive. So they're great schools. We've got Perry High School right down the street from us. Great schools, but that's not where she thrives. She's not that kid. She's the kid who needs to be accepted socially. And so that was what was important to me when I did my searches. But I just went to every district. And then I feel like for my family in Colorado, I kind of made the mistake when I started them in school of joining a charter school, which, don't get me wrong, charter school is not a mistake, but for me, just not knowing where our family would go, I made this mistake of joining this charter school and then being a part of that community, which is completely separate from your neighborhoods and your neighbors and the kids who, you know, live around you. So whether or not that had anything to do with her social failings or not, I don't know, but I didn't want to do that again. So I didn't want to open enroll her. So we picked the house, and then we just went with the district that was here, you know, and our middle school, or I'm sorry, our elementary school kids could walk to school because the elementary school is right in our neighborhood. And then we just, you know, the other kids just kind of followed wherever the district was. So it wasn't a huge search for me. We landed where we were happy. 4,500 homes in this neighborhood. So lots of choices for friends. If somebody doesn't like you, you got 44.99
Right.
homes to go. Keep knocking on doors, baby girl. You know? So for me, it was just about the environment and the right neighborhood and the right place and the trails and the things to do and the neighborhood events and the community, and then education was kind of secondary. But we're really happy. Our middle school kid and our elementary school kid are in the school district, and incredibly happy. And my oldest teen is doing Primavera, which is an online school.
Yep.
Incredibly happy with them. I would send all of my kids to that school if I thought that they would do well. But they like friends. They like the social stuff. So
yeah. Awesome. Good to know. I love that. What's the biggest difference that you've discovered between Colorado and Arizona?
I'll share a story with you. When I first got here, I was in Safeway, which is just a grocery store right down the street. So I wasn't very far from home. And I was coming out, house backup, the house short sale. We've been remodeling it and renovating it for 4 years now. So we didn't have an RO system, so we were drinking bottled water. So I was buying a lot of flats of water and stuff because we didn't even have a fridge that had the filter yet. We brought like our beer fridge from the garage in Colorado here. So we weren't doing a lot of tap water, and we didn't have an RO system, and that was new to me. I was like, I don't even know what this whole thing is. Right. But so we were buying a lot of bottled water. So I was coming out of Safeway with like a grocery cart full of flats of water, and I'm pushing my cart, and I'm going in the parking lot, and some guy in a little white car like drives up towards me, and he parks, and he gets out of the car, and he's like, I am so sorry. And I was like, what? Like, he didn't do anything. Yeah. And he's like, I didn't mean to cut you off. I was nowhere near him. He was not at risk of hitting me. He was like, I wasn't scared. I wasn't like, what? Oh. He was so nice. And then he was like, can you get that into your car? And I was floored. So I have found that kind of kindness and acceptance here more than I have anywhere. And I've lived in Massachusetts, I've lived in Virginia, I'm a Colorado native. So I've lived in Colorado several times. I've never seen the amount of tolerance and kindness as I've seen here. I'm surprised. I'm still, even 4 years later, surprised at the amount of community, that community feeling that I have in my neighborhood, outside of my neighborhood, in places like MOMnation, and in the school districts. It's everywhere. People are just really nice, and it feels genuine. But it makes you go, like, what I do to deserve that?
Like, what's going on? Yeah,
standing here. It's just cool. It's I think that's the biggest difference. And I can tell you, you're from the East Coast, so having lived much of my late teens, early adult life on the East Coast, and starting a career on the East Coast, it's very fast-paced out there. So when I went back to Colorado, I even had my boss tell me, and this was in the late 90s, I had my boss tell me, like, slow down, because out here we do things a little slower, and you're going to run circles around your staff, and you're going to lose people. And I was like, what?
Like, what's wrong with that?
we got things to do. But that's kind of how it is out here too. Everybody's just like, you know what? Just relax. It's okay. We'll get it done. Or do you need me to stop and help you with this? Or, my family is not like every other family, and we're very accepted, and people pause and ask questions and seem to really care about what goes on with us. That's really, even after 4 years later, it's really different and new. It's really cool.
I love it, and I've realized the same thing. So I'm glad that you had that story to share. That was really cool. Um, is there any part of town that is most like your home state in terms of people, maybe sports teams, sports bars, scenery, feel, that kind of thing?
Hmm. No. Um, yeah, I mean, I think you have a lot of little areas here in the metro area, especially that can be like some areas in Colorado. I mean, obviously, you go up north to Flagstaff, it's so much more like what we're used to as a Colorado native, with trees, with greenery, with things turning brown and dying off in the winter with the snow and the weather. Here in the metro area, the city of Phoenix is nothing like Denver. I mean, it's just absolutely nothing like even downtown. Phoenix is huge. The down area is like this. Denver's is interesting. I would say from where I told you I was in a really small town north of Denver, out here where I am now in southeast Gilbert, if you go just a few miles away from the city or the town of Gilbert, it's more like where I used to be. The neighborhood of Seville is very much, or that area around Seville is very much like where I used to be. Queen Creek is very much like where I used to be, although it's even bigger because
Right.
all my little town had was like a grocery store and a Home Depot. And we had 4 Starbucks. But I know it's weird. But that was it. We had no, we just didn't have anything there.
Well,
So
Queen Creek used to be like that. It's been a few
they're
years,
growing.
but
Yeah, they're definitely growing. And it's interesting because I liked Queen Creek when I first moved here, and it was my realtor who said, "You know what? Wait a little bit because there's really not a whole lot of infrastructure in Queen Creek, and it's definitely in just 4 years it has grown a lot." But he knew where I was coming from this little town where I lived in Colorado. When I built my last house there in 2007, the town bought this plot of land and they had this big 20-year plan. And I remember thinking, my kids are going to be grown, so we're not going to be able to take advantage of it. But over the 20 years, surely we'll get some of it. Well, in the 9 I was there, we got a library and that was it. So in almost half of the 20-year plan, we didn't see anything. So to see
geez.
what Queen Creek has done in 4 years is huge. And I'm like, wow, things can really move fast.
It's mind blowing. It's
Yeah,
almost like I drive down there and then a month later I drive down there and it's totally different.
that's new. Yeah.
It's crazy. Um, what do you wish you knew before you moved here?
I don't know. That's a tough question. I don't know. You know what? I still will say that I don't always know how best to entertain out of town visitors. So maybe, I mean, we always go hiking,
Mm-hmm.
but then we have, a good friend who doesn't like to hike as much, but she likes breweries. So we go to the breweries. But that's about the extent. Like we take visitors hiking to the breweries or to the Mercury games if it's Mercury season. And that's how we entertain our guests or in our backyard pool. So I think I'm still probably pretty naive as to what do we do around here. I mean, I'm really happy because I've got 28 miles of trails in my neighborhood. I have a pool in my backyard. It's a great place. But when people come to town, I'm like, well, what do you want to do? What do you guys do here? This is it. We hang out here, So I think that's it. I don't think I had any really big surprises.
What if any, advice would you have to a mom or a family that may be looking at Arizona to move to with their kids?
I think my advice would be, as I said with us, which I didn't do when my kids were young, is pick your neighborhood first. Um, you know, Arizona doesn't have a great report card when it comes to schools compared to the rest of the nation. But with that said, school is just academic, and social well-being, mental well-being, fitting in, having a great place to call home, having a great neighborhood, if neighborhoods are important, or having a great, rural area, if that's where you want to be. I think that matters most. Where you call home is going to matter most. And I think that comes from not just my experience moving here, but my last house that I built that I was in for 9 years. I picked a house first. I picked a floor plan and a custom builder that I loved, and I put it out in the middle of the country. And it wasn't as fabulous as I thought it would be. And so it never felt like home. It always felt like we were searching for something. And here we are in a 15-year-old house that the original owner didn't take care of, that we're still renovating. But this is more home, I think, than we've felt in a long time, because we live in a fantastic community of people who care. One of the things that I did before I left Colorado was join the neighborhood Facebook group. So if you're looking from out of state, get involved on social media in the groups. Ask, even if neighborhood groups don't allow you to join without an address, ask, just, hey, I'm looking in your area. Can you just let me in for the next 30 days? And if I don't buy, boot me out in 30 days.
Mm-hmm.
But start getting involved. The day I got here on July 6th, which was actually my birthday, 3 families showed up at my door that night. And some of I hadn't been here before, but we had gift baskets, we had dinner brought to us, we had somebody show up with a couple of teenagers to unload the truck, and then we had another family bring us pool toys for the kids.
Wow.
All of that just because I had joined the neighborhood group and said, I'm buying a house, we don't close until June, can anybody recommend these services? We're going to need tile, we're going to need carpet, we're going to need this, we're going to need that. And by the way, here's the address. We need friends too. I have kids this age, they need friends. Do you guys have any advice? I mean, we just connected. So make those connections while you're out of state, and it will just be automatic. Days after we moved in was my daughter's birthday, and somebody I had never met brought her teens over and threw like a pizza party, and then invited a bunch of 12-year-old girls to the neighborhood pool and my daughter, and threw like a birthday party. We'd been here 5 days. So it was those connections that we made just through Facebook neighborhood groups. So don't be afraid to get involved and start making connections from far away now, because they'll be your friends when you land in Arizona.
100% agree. And most people, like you said, a little while back, are real friendly. So
Yeah.
Totally agree with that advice. Well, thank you, Stella. It's been a pleasure speaking with you today.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you. That's cool. I haven't shared that in a while.
I'm all out of questions. I'm sorry, but I can make some more up for you.
Yeah, no, that was fine. I mean, it's funny because I don't talk a whole lot about myself, but I haven't talked about that move in a while. So that was cool. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing it with us.
All right.
Have a good day.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.